Progressives are upset because education, particularly literacy, is better in the South now than in progressive states. That's right. Have you heard this? I bet you have it on major media outlets. If you listen to me, you've known for a while the Mississippi success story. Mississippi now has one of the highest literacy rates in the country for high school graduates, and not on the rig test, but on the standardized tests. If you get to third grade in Mississippi and you can't reach basic third grade literacy rates, you're not allowed to progress to fourth grade until you do. They're holding kids back in Mississippi until they can read. The problem now is math. Math is actually becoming a problem, and it is a problem across the United States. And I've got some thoughts, but first, let me read you this from New York Magazine. Academic researchers have only just begun to examine the Southern surge. Some credit concerted teacher training, coaching efforts, back to basics philosophy that makes use of old-fashioned teaching tools like math flashcards. Some point to the science of reading, a phonics-based curriculum that Mississippi was early to embrace and that is now being implemented all over the country, including in New York City, which just announced a jump in reading test scores. Another thing that the conservative southern states tend to share is a continued commitment to test-based accountability measures, which their teachers have had to swallow because they have weaker unions. In Mississippi, children are also held accountable. Third graders who fail to show reading proficiency are held back by law, which may help to explain why its fourth graders test so well. There's a lot on literacy, but not a lot on math. I have to tell you, I think Common Core has a lot to do with the bad math scores because it detached parents from being able to help their children. If you don't understand what Common Core math is new math. In fact, they make old school math that you and I did in elementary and high school. They make it pejorative. They call it grandma math. And they tell the kids not to do grandma math. And they've complicated math. When I was in third grade, I had Helen Bruskus. Helen Bruskus was this fiery Greek teacher. She is the woman who taught me the love of writing and reading. She forced us every day we had to write. We had to write not sentences, we had to write paragraphs. And every day there was a topic and we had to write on the topic. And she taught us math. And the way we learned multiplication tables, I mentioned this on the radio yesterday, we sat around an old school record player. And she had a record for each of the numbers 2 through 9. 2 times 2 is 2, da-da. 2 times 3 is 6, da-da. 2 times 4 is 8, da-da. 2 times 5 is 10, da-da. 2 times 6 is 12. You had to do it all the way up. And then you did the threes. 3 times 1 is 3, da-da. 3 times 2 is 6, da-da. 3 times 3 is 9, all the way up. And I got held back from recess because I couldn't memorize. I still have troubles with the 8s and the 9s. It took me forever to try to memorize them. But you had to memorize them. Before you were allowed to do division, you had to memorize them. And everybody had to be together. And there was a certain time period you had to memorize this stuff for when you got to division. So when you got to 2 divided by 4 or 4 divided by 2, you know that is 2 because 2 times 2 is 4. And you got to be able to figure it out. You had to memorize it. And Common Core shifts the way memorization for mathematics skills works. And by the way, they've now rebranded Common Core math. In some schools, they call it Singapore math. Because you see, the kids in Singapore are smart. It's a variation of Common Core. And there are a number of schools that use it, and it's called Singapore math. And the idea, the academics, some of whom will big defenders, we'll get defenders of Singapore and Common Core math on this program. We've got to learn this new way, and some kids learn different. We have to teach. Essentially, they're teaching you every variety of way to do a math problem. And by the way, one of the things that's happened. One of the things that's happened is kids are having a harder time doing word problems since we got rid of basic math and we moved to Common Core math. There's been a decline in comprehension of word-based math problems, which Common Core was actually supposed to solve, but made it worse. And so now they call it Singapore math. Because, those kids in Singapore, they sure are smart. Let's do it the way they do it. And it's not working. Scores have gotten worse. Academia they think they got to reinvent the wheel every time. And guess what? In Mississippi and Louisiana and Tennessee, Alabama, the reason literacy scores are going up so high is because they've abandoned reinventing the wheel and they went back to what worked at first. The way we taught literacy in the early 1900s was phonics-based. The word sounds. Put the word sounds together, you'll learn the word, as opposed to the whole word and sentence structure reading that took off in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and collapsed literacy rates in the country. Phonics actually does work. And there are teachers who are very adamant that phonics is a terrible way to learn, that you should use the sight word method, and those people should frankly be driven out of education. Because the data shows it doesn't work as well as phonics, but they're dogmatic. It's like the people who embrace Common Core and then had to rebrand it Singapore math. And a lot of schools, they got rid of calling it Common Core and they decided to do common proficiency and nonsensical new labels because parents realize Common Core sucks. And it's dragged down education across the country. And what it has done, one of the primary motivations of Common Core was so that you could be a good worker bee for the Fortune 500. And it's not a coincidence that as this has happened, as schools embrace Common Core, which Bill Gates and others helped develop, because they thought a kid in California, if they moved to Georgia, should kind of be on the same page and taught the same way. What's actually happened now is that there's no room in the Fortune 500 for your kids. And your kids have now lost the entrepreneurial ambition and spirit because Common Core was designed to suck up the entrepreneurial spirit. Common Core was designed, in fact, to make your kids stop thinking outside the box and do things certain ways and then detach your kid from you. How many of you parents in Common Core states can help your kid with math? Virtually none. And that's not actually me, that's data-based. There's actually been research on this that parents in Common Core states can't help their kids with math, because the parents don't know how to do it. They haven't been trained in doing it. And we have this collapse in math in the country as the Fortune 500 and the chambers of commerce and the like got together and let's come up with Common Core. They rolled it out across the country. States across the country have embraced it. And now you can't help your child with math. Your child is dependent on who? On who? The state. The teacher. Our kids were in a private school that did Common Core math. It was actually our church's school. I think they still do Common Core math. They moved to a different private classical education school, and the Christian classical education school uses old school math. My son is accelerated up to pre-calc. My daughter did AP calculus, ran circles around the kids in the other private school that were doing the Common Core stuff. And by the way, I'm no math whiz. I'm great at geometry and trigonometry. But when he gets into calc and stuff, nope, that was my wife. And she could help the kids. She wasn't able to help our kid in third grade do math. But when our kids moved to an old school math system, she's able to help our kids with math again. The parents were able to involve themselves in their kids' homework. There's a lady online, I want you to read this. This is another part of the problem with education right now. I have a student in an Algebra 2 class who is failing. Her grade is a 12. The student is frequently absent and does not turn in work when they're present. I asked the student why they don't attempt any of the assignments. The student said, I know how this works. They'll put me in credit recovery. I'll finish the whole course in a couple of weeks and can guess my way through everything because it's all multiple choice with unlimited attempts. The teacher in there's chill. He's on his phone. He doesn't care if we're on our phone. The student is going to graduate from high school with a transcript showing passing grades in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. Does the student understand the material? Absolutely not. Course and grade recovery programs should not be an option. And it is, particularly in a lot of blue states and in a lot of urban areas in red states, credit and grade recovery programs have become the default. And so now you have situations like the University of California, San Diego saying that virtually every child who comes in, because they got rid of testing standards, because they wanted a more diverse student population, and virtually every kid who comes into that school program at the University of California, San Diego now has to go through a remedial math program to catch up because they can't do basic math. States that don't have strong teachers' unions have better education outcomes. Think about that. See, the teachers' unions are advocates for the teachers, not the students. The students are failing, and the teachers' unions are like, well, we can't improve them because that would mean more work for the teachers. In southern states where teachers' unions are not strong, you've got better education outcomes. In literacy, math scores are actually rising in the South, even as they still have these terrible Common Core programs. Some schools are moving back to traditional math. We want to be competitive in the world. You know, the president the other day, he did it again yesterday. He stepped in it. He defended H-1B visa programs again, claimed H-1B visa programs are part of MAGA. A lot of his supporters were very outraged about what the president said. But to a degree, the president has a point that we don't have a proficiency of training in this country because kids are coming out of high schools and they are failing math, and yet they pass math enough to be able to get by. And so the president, to a degree, is actually right when he says something like this.
If you have to bring people to get those plants opened, we want you to do that, and we want those people to teach our people how to make computer chips and how to make other things. You can't come in, and I'm explaining, you can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory for billions and billions of dollars like is being done in Arizona and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome those people. Now, I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. And those people are going to teach our people how to make computer chips, and in a short period of time, our people are going to be doing great, and those people can go home. You know, the people that are against this are really, really smart. They're unbelievable patriots, but they just don't understand. Our people have to be taught. This is something they've never done.
He's not wrong, but will his supporters embrace this message? We do have to have people to train us, but right now, you know, we got teachers claiming Singapore math isn't Common Core when it actually is, and the results speak for themselves. Our kids are falling further and further behind, and the acceleration of kids falling behind in math came with Common Core when their parents could no longer help them with math scores, and yet the education establishment of this country has doubled down on it, and the results now speak for themselves. Our country is falling further behind.